We're back out here. Race start was awesome. Oh, it's so good to be out here. I can't wait for the next 2 weeks. It's going to be brilliant. Thank you everyone for all your support. Looking forward to sharing it. Got a decision to make soon about changing sails. So we've all been pressing really hard overnight, trying to get west as fast as possible to meet this ridge of high pressure, then get across it. And I've got my fractional zero up, which is my smallest Jenica, which has done me really well overnight, but now the breeze is starting to drop and I should really change to a big one. But when I do the change, it kind of takes me out the game for about 40 minutes or so. And so I'm kind of really struggling with when I should do that. I think Damien just did it because he came across my bow sailing downwind, and now he's just down to leeward of me keeping pace. Nico Lundven in Bank Populaire is behind me, also keeping pace. I mean, I'm going well with the frac at the moment, but I'm probably a bit high, so that's one of the guys being picked up by the AIS. I know I need to change at some point, I just don't know when. Just had a little surprise. That's just there, just above the radar dome. That is Lamy Cali. I passed about half a mile ahead of him. Wasn't expecting to see him this morning, and nice to pass ahead of him. Means that I'm back in touch with the rest of the fleet, which is great. Had a really challenging night, evening. Early yesterday evening, I lost all power, everything, completely, totally and utterly, nothing. No instruments, no pilot, no comms, absolutely nothing at all. And it took me 3 hours to sort the problem out, but then also I just had to reset absolutely everything, and I had a problem with my rudder reference unit that popped off in all of the chaos that ensued. So I just spent 3 hours drifting around trying to sort this problem out, and lost contact with Isabel then. So it's nice to find the breeze again this morning. Just heard from the race committee that they might be going to alter the course because there's a massive low out in the West Atlantic coming barreling in towards us. Big breeze on the bottom of that, maybe 50 knots, and the fleet is going to be split, some above it, some below it. So it'll be interesting to see what the committee do. It's a tough decision because Charlie is so far ahead. How do you now create a course that doesn't favour some and penalise others? The answer is I don't think you can. However, they need to be pragmatic because none of us want to break our boats, and 50 knots is not a place that you ever want to be. So waiting to hear from them, and we'll see what happens. Little chance for a small update before it gets a little bit exciting there. I am in the calm before the storm. There's been quite a bit of an update overnight on what we're doing with the racing. We have been told by the race committee that we are going to get to Iceland and then suspend racing for at least 24 hours. So let's have a quick look at the grid and see why. We are looking at my small grid file there. It's small because I'm conserving data. And here you can see the fleet of boats, the pack that I'm in just there, and there is the centre of a low pressure that's tracked in from over here. There's another little centre up there. Those two are going to join eventually, so there's a big kind of blobby centre of it there. So I sailed in here where the lines are close together. That's where it's windy. and now I'm in the bit with no wind. I've just jibed and I'm heading north. As we go through the day, the low pressure is moving north as well, and you can see those two little centres joining up there, and these isobars getting closer together there and following up towards Iceland. And then because the isobars are close together, you can see the red arrows on there, so that is 40 knots of wind there. If it's 40 on the grib, it's going to be more on the water, so I think I'm going to see 45, maybe gusting 50 this afternoon. And that low pressure just follows us all the way up to Iceland, and we're going to stop at this gate there. Let's just take a little look out here. It's very light, but total clouds cover. It has got quite cold, and I know it's going to be nasty, so I put my awning down. I'm quite pleased. First time I've used the awning so far. And oh, there's a sky that says I'm going to eat you alive. It's all very, very grey and damp out here. So the breeze is building, and I'm just waiting for it all to kick off. I think I've got about another hour or so of sort of calm conditions like this, and then the breeze is going to build and build quite quickly. My biggest concern at the moment is I want to get my J0, the big sail, out of the sky in good time, but then it's a timing thing, because obviously I want to push on with it as much as I can, because that will get me ahead of the low but also keep me racing, but I want to give myself enough time to get it down and secured if I am going to see that much wind. For now it's a waiting game, so I'm going to go down below, going to make a cup of tea, I'm going to have a 20-minute nap and wait for Armageddon. So dot watchers, got some bad news for you. The race is going to be stopped at Iceland. The weather conditions are pretty awful up here, and the notion that we were all going to stop for 36 hours and wait for the wind to blow through just isn't going to work, because there's nowhere for us to go. So the whole fleet was going to be forced to kind of mill around in northerly gales for 36 hours in the same space, which is just not a clever thing to do, especially when we're all pretty battered from getting up here. So yeah, I mean, I'm gutted because I really was hitting my stride, started to take some scalps, but it's been a good race, and I'll carry on doing updates on my delivery home. I'm safe, I'm fine, everyone is okay, and don't forget, we all do this for fun. So, you know, it's still a really great experience to be taking part in a race like this. I'll carry on doing posts on my way home, the things that I've learned and what it's like being at sea. Thank you all so much for your support and for following the race, and next time you'll be tuning in for the Round Britain and Ireland. 3 miles to the finish. Here we go. The sea state is building. It's quite brutal at the moment when we lift off the waves. The slamming down is hard. The wind is up and down, 35 knots 1 minute, 25 the next. Really tough conditions, but I seem to have profited from it. So long as I get through the next 15 minutes, looks like I'm coming in 13th, which I was so happy about, and one behind Giancarlo. I'll reflect properly on the race when I've had a bit of sleep, but always lessons to learn. but I really feel like I'm starting to get somewhere now. You know, I said I wanted to be in touch with Giancarlo, with Isabel, and I'm ahead of some big foil boats, La Micaline, 40 nets, Nexans, Kojiro, you know, the good guys with similar boats to me, they're still consistently ahead of me, but I think at times I was challenging them. So gutted the race is ending here, but you know, we are where we are. It's cold, so I'm going to turn around and go south. Got to cross the finish line first though. It's the morning after the night before. Whew, what a party. I think the whole fleet turned around, headed south, and once we were through the worst of the gale, we've all just been trying to bank as much sleep as possible. Everyone is totally exhausted. I've been messaging a few of the other skippers this morning and everyone's the same. They've just been, oh, I've been sleeping as much as I can. What a race though. Everything we expected it would be. I mean, it's challenging coming up to the north. Iceland is a lot further north than we go south in the Vendée Globe. It's cold, you know, as we saw, the weather is fierce. And so, you know, it ended up being a really challenging race in many, many aspects. 13th, I'm happy with that. You know, I think I mapped out what success looked like for me at the beginning of the race. And it was kind of just managing myself in the boat a bit better, but also staying in touch with those other boats that are similar to mine, similar design, similar age. And I feel that I did that. I finished just behind Giancarlo. You know, at times I was kind of right up with them, at times ahead at the start. I did a really good leg at the start. And I think the interesting thing is that I'm actually pretty good at sailing the boat fast in breeze, in a straight line. Where I struggle is light stuff, and also just making the right decisions at transitions and sail changes and those sorts of things. And those are the things that I know I need to work on. Good things that I learned during the race. Well, all the time when the boat's going fast, it's a new skill to just exist on board. And it's not just existing, it's not just eating, sleeping, you know, checking the boat, maintaining, all that sort of stuff. It's when you have a problem, and I had a problem just, I don't know, about 36 hours before the finish, where my alternator wasn't charging the batteries. It was really worrying actually, because the batteries got right down again. The alternator just wouldn't charge, so I spent about an hour messaging with Joff trying to fault find, and then the boat was still doing, you know, 20 knots, and the motion had been quite violent, and I had my head torch on, and I was right in the engine bay, underneath the engine, tracing wires, looking for fuses, and all the time you're kind of just in a position where you're trying not to headbutt the engine if the boat suddenly stops. And managing to do that sort of work in those conditions is another level from, you know, the last boat I had. So all of this is a learning curve, and I'm building experience. I mean, in terms of the race and how it ended, I was gutted, because I did feel like I was really starting to find my stride, and you know, had we carried on for another 2,000 miles, then you know, I think I could have climbed some more places in the fleet. But I think the race management didn't really have any other option but to stop the race because of the way that things evolved. The low pressure system we were in was a nasty one. I saw 43 knots, but I know that the boats behind me were actually in worse conditions than I was. They saw a lot more wind. The sea state was really big. Coming back today, or last night, it had died down a bit. It was 35 knots for about 8 hours yesterday, and that was frisky enough, but you know, we were able to sail the boats in a fairly conservative manner, so reef down and with small sails, and that's a different proposition from racing through those conditions. Still got a long sail home. I'm just level with the top of Scotland at the moment, but me and, you know, all the other skippers, I think, are really kind of just taking it easy. And certainly everyone last night was banking as much sleep as possible, so we were all alarmed up to the hilt and kind of just gingerly progressing south. So lots of learnings, lots and lots of learnings, but I'm super happy with my results. It's definitely a step in the right direction, and I'm still on the way up. On the delivery home from the Vendée Arctique, and sea states just started to get quite big. Boats really started to take off and surf. It's not because the wind's picked up. It's because we are in the vicinity of Rockall Bank, and any of you who listen to the British shipping forecast on Radio 4 will be familiar with Rockall as one of the shipping forecast areas, and it's named after a bank. So let's just have a quick look at what that looks like on the charts. Nip over here, drop down onto the beanbag, and here we go. So you are looking at my boat there, which is the black, and my trajectory across that area of blue, which is, if I zoom out, you'll see it's right in the middle of a really deep area. So the deep areas are white, and it actually goes down to 1 metre on the bank, so it can be quite dangerous. And we've had an update from Arnaud on La Micaline saying there's quite a lot of fishing boats over there, and they don't pop up on AIS until quite late. So I need to be up on deck, really keeping a good lookout. But it's such a great day, I'm going to go up there anyway. And I thought what we could do is get suited and booted and go out on the deck so you can see what it's like outside, because it is beautiful.
Microphone.